Senator, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So, Senator, I want to ask you, Russia was running war games 500 miles off the coast of Hawaii in the days leading up to this meeting. It's provocative, bold, and it appears Biden didn't even bring it up. What does that tell you?
Well, we weren't in the meeting, so I don't know what came up, but I can certainly tell you this, a couple things. There's no doubt that Putin believes, based on his previous interaction with Biden and watching American politics, that Biden's someone he wants to test, that he wants to muscle. I mean, this is a trained ideological operative, a psychological operative, I should say. He's a trained intelligence officer. So he knows Biden and he sizes him up. And I think he was probably hoping to either two things. I think Putin was hoping to get him one-on-one without staff, getting him to agree to some things. And I think he was probably hoping to get him in a joint press conference where he could sort of say things that make Biden uncomfortable. Given what we've seen recently from the president, I think it's probably a wise choice to not put him in that situation, either one. Look, I'm not a fan of Vladimir Putin, but I think clearly he felt like in a setting like that, he could have an advantage and to really press the case. But, I guess we'll never really know what exactly came up in that conversation.
Well, if you believe Joe Biden talked a lot about feelings, and he's trying to explain why the rest of the world wouldn't like you, Vladimir Putin, if you do these things. A bully doesn't respond to things like that. And I think the most troubling moment was this one, at least I had in the news conference, with he talked about if you go after critical infrastructure, and he laid out what he gave Putin. Listen to this soundbite, and then let's talk about it on the other side.
I talked about the proposition that certain critical infrastructure should be off limits to attack, period, by cyber or any other means. I gave them a list. If I'm not mistaken, I don't have it in front of me, 16 specific entities. 16 defined as critical infrastructure under U.S. policy, from the energy sector to our water systems.
Senator, I'm baffled by that. 16 entities.
Yeah,
How about don't go after any
fine.
American entity? Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I guess, if you're a small business or a mid-sized business and you get wiped out by a Russian hacker, that's okay, as long as you're not a water plant or a utility company. Look, I don't. That was an unforced error. I don't know. I hope he really didn't give him that list. I think Putin's going to wave that list around and say, "Hey, it's not on your list." But the bigger challenge here, I think, for the country is we have to call this out for what it is. These criminal organizations operating inside of Russia. Number one, if Putin wants them, he can find them. He can find anybody who wants in Russia, and he can shut them down. He doesn't want to shut them down. But the second is sometimes maybe he's hired them to do this work on behalf of Russia. Because it provides them deniability. Well, it's not us. We're not the ones doing it. We'll look into it. We'll see what we can do, And that's one of the things that I fear about this sort of setting is when my guess is that Biden was very tightly scripted. They had to write things out for him. They put things on a piece of paper. And then I think a guy like Vladimir Putin is going to take it and spin it. And he doesn't care about what the world thinks about Vladimir. But he's not trying to be popular in the world. Vladimir Putin wants to restore Russia to great power standing. He can't do that economically, so he has to do that militarily and asymmetrically by being able to wield power. And he wants to do it for two reasons. One, out of Russian pride, but the other, because that's his whole sell point to the Russian people. After the Cold War, Russia was a disaster. It was in chaos. I have restored Russia to greatness. That's the argument Putin relies on for political currency inside the country. He doesn't care what they think about him in Paris or in London or in Washington or in L.A.
Senator, how concerned are you about Joe Biden's weakness here, thinking he can befriend enemies like this, that it will really put national security for all of us at risk?
Well, I'm concerned simply because I think once Putin has sized him up, he's going to ask himself, I'm going to test this guy. How far can I go? What can I do? And one of the things he's looking for is not what you say. I mean, he knows there are things you're going to need to say. I think what he wants to sort of size up is, what is this guy's pain tolerance? What is he willing to put up with in order to preserve a deal, or in order to avoid a conflict, or in order to, not have a hassle on his hands that he has to deal with? And I think that's one of the things he's looking at, and he's going to play that. So we don't know what he'll calculate. I have no clue as to what Vladimir Putin left that meeting feeling like, but I'm most certain he went in looking for an assessment, a personal assessment as to what was Biden willing to put up with and what is he not willing to put up with. How far can I push this guy? Because understand, he views this as a zero-sum game. One of the things that gives him strength, one of the things that gives him strength at home, one of the things that highlights and burnishes credentials around the world is his ability to embarrass and frustrate the United States. And when he sees an opportunity to do it, that's what he's going to do.
And I think when you look at the two news conferences afterwards, that's exactly what happened. Vladimir Putin embarrassed Joe Biden, and I was actually embarrassed for this president as well. But Senator Marco Rubio, it's great having you on the program. It's the first time. I hope I get you again back real soon. Thank you for what you do down in
Absolutely.
Florida and up in Washington as well.